This is an ABP Live Podcast.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I'm Aabir Lahiry. You're watching Cracking Conversations and ABP Live Podcast. Joining me today in Cracking Conversation is the writer of this wonderful book called Check In, Never Check Out. He carries like a 40-year-old legacy and a lot of professionalism on his sleeve. Mr. Rattan Keswani in the house. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you, and thank you for.
Did I pronounce your name right?
It's Keswani, but that's okay.
Okay.
Most people.
And it's Rattan, right?
Rattan.
Okay.
Yeah.
आप होटल की जगत के मतलब एक लाइक पायनियर नाम है, मतलब इतना बड़ा करियर है. आई नीड टू लर्न अ लॉट अबाउट दिस, बट बिफोर दैट अ स्मॉल पीस ऑफ मैसेज फ्रॉम योर साइड. व्हाट एग्जैक्टली द बुक इज ऑल अबाउट? इट इज सर्टनली योर जर्नी, बट इफ आई एम समबडी हु जस्ट लाइक सॉ दिस बुक ऑन अ बुक शेल्फ इन अ लाइक अ पॉपुलर बुक स्टोर, मुझे इससे क्या अंदर क्या मिलेगा?
So one, like you said correctly, it is my journey. But my journey is in a business which teaches you many more things other than hospitality.
True.
Other than rooms and food and beverage. And I think all the learnings that I've tried to capture here, in my opinion, it's personal opinion totally, would be useful to leaders or aspiring leaders in any other industry.
Okay. So
I say that I just brag this a bit. You know, our business is just like the constitution, for the people, by the people, not the people. And let me explain that. You know, hotels are like our country, very disparate. They are humming. You know, it's like a churn that's happening inside. So to give you two examples, imagine a location in Mumbai, which is two hotels together, but they share the facilities, having 2,200 people working in a hotel.
True.
That's more than the size of international cities sometimes. Population, all in one building, right? In Delhi, imagine 1,000 people working. But this what I'm going to explain works with smaller hotels too. So here's a wholesale. The first hotel I mentioned opened in 1972. The world was different. The Delhi hotel opened even earlier. It was opened in 1965.
Right.
The world was totally different.
True.
Right? Where did these people come from? They came from just about secondary education. They came from different social structures, different hesitances, different, way they view the world. It's like India, right?
Yeah.
They came from everywhere. So just like today, if you see what are our challenges or opportunities in India, there's a little bit of static electricity that you see on multiple issues and people interacting, and you don't have to. But that's what happens inside the back end of the hotel. People age, their bodies ache, right? Initially, they look at guests with envy, dislike, because, they're well-to-do. They see all kinds of things happening: pain, grief, happiness,
All kinds of emotions.
all kinds of emotions within and with the customer. And yet, and the people I worked with have been almost in the same job for 30 plus years. They came in when they were in their late teens, early 20s. I worked with them when they were in their 40s and again came back to the same hotel in their 50s. Imagine how life has churned for them. Their kids have grown. They've kind of started to have a larger house, but very far away. So the women will cook at home starting at 5 o'clock in the morning, then travel, come back, work for 11 hours, go back, travel, cook for their family. Mother-in-law issues, father-in-law issues, patriarchal issues, social issues, as much as anybody can see, right?
But then you have to have a smile on your face. And
Correct. Then early identification of diversity, LGBTQ. Some of my friends were in the closet, but they were not accepted. But they're the most creative people, right? But when the doors open, it's theater. It's multiple orchestras happening at the same time. Imagine that in a Mumbai like hotel, there are tens of thousands of interactions happening with the customer. In no business, I kid you not, no business would you have every employee touching your customer. Every employee.
True.
Right? And people say, but look, there are people in finance and there are people in stores who touch nobody. It's no. The people who are partners and vendors are actually become your customers because they have their weddings and they come to eat. So if they haven't been looked after, they don't become ambassadors, they can't become your guests. So actually everybody has thousands and thousands of moments of truth.
Right from the person enters the gate to the reception to
That's the simplest one, and then everybody from below, right? The laundry person, the kitchen service person, everybody has at least a smile moment or a moment of eye contact, if not higher. Which industry has that? If you see an FMCG, a TV channel, MNC, you have sales and distribution.
Yeah.
You have marketing working with production and design. Production has purchase and some finance, then you have a corporate finance, and then you have a board.
Yeah.
Right? That's it. I mean, life ends there.
True.
In a hotel, you have 17 to 18 different departments and subsets. Okay, all with different kinds of people, different age. The new people come, other people go, high attrition. The newer people come with different needs, different thoughts, right? Nobody can teach you true management and leadership.
The way hospitality teaches.
I think so. Okay. HR is written in books, but it's topical, ratta marne wali baat, right? But it doesn't work on the ground, because imagine at one point of time, the needs, the engagement, the way the person wants to be treated, and he's 50 years old, the person who's joining you at 23, lot more savvy, is very different.
True. There can't be one rule for both of them.
In our days, it was difficult to learn the subject of hospitality. The books were more expensive than your monthly salary. But today, all that is available, either on social media, whether it's Google or YouTube, whatever. Theoretical knowledge is available more than it was available, but nobody tells you the how to do it. Treat people equally. No, it doesn't work. Everybody has different needs, and depending upon their age, their background, their diversity, their acceptances, what is their mood today, they have a desire to be treated differently.
This reminds me of the Maslow need theory.
Absolutely. So all those people talk about, but theoretically, no course, no mentor.
वो आके वहाँ पे पता चलेगा. Please have your coffee.
Then you put these people, and I had it was destined. And as you'll read in the book, I went through a fair number of crises in multiple places that I ran.
Okay.
And the leadership, because of the stature of the crisis, may not have been available, or some leaders were not willing to give you assistance to take a decision.
Sure.
So imagine Mumbai floods, July 2005. The city shut down, half the hotels didn't work, half the hotel can't get back home, but they're stuck on the way. You can't communicate with anybody, telephone lines are down, systems start shutting down, elevators start shutting down, people want to check out, reach the hotel. Multiple such pieces. Colombo was all about bomb blasts happening in front of you, terrorists dying in front of you. Saudi Arabia was, going there just about the fag end of the Gulf War, and then dealing with other nationalities as well, the Lebanese, the Filipinos. And in that same complication, the communication and the empathy needs or the emotional needs for them to do the job right differs. Nobody teaches you the how. You have a lot of bullet points that everybody tells you. What I realized is that the best way to get there was to open up yourself to them, and then they would open up themselves to you.
I guess be human. That's the first thing. No?
Yeah, I think empathy, keep the door open door. These are all theoretical terms, right? But if you explain to people what you've gone through, so the past is gone, but there's a learning. So I used to find that with whatever I had gone through, and if I was not able to solve a problem or saw something was not working, the way I could teach was by telling my own story. So this is what I learned in the past when I was in the situation. Maybe it'll help. Today people say sales and marketing is all about telling stories. Right? It's a new realization post COVID. But I mean, that's the only way I could do it. And because I opened myself to my, maybe my deficiencies, what I didn't do well, and therefore how do I recover them, they started to express themselves a lot better. And so you'll hear multiple episodes, what happened in multiple places where the teams were not working. And then because we started to engage and share, it changed. So in our business, we say the best hotel can be brought down by not the best leadership. And a very average hotel can be really brought up by good leaders, right? Because what is funny is that all these people, when they are under pressure, are the ones who can tell you what to do. As long as they become the buttress for your success, you succeed because they've been there, done that. But then they're giving it to you out of empathetic, not loyalty, but understanding of to human interaction, right? And they come alive. And I saw in different places, and my question to them or to myself used to be, what makes them do this? They don't have to. They come here to do a job. What makes them go beyond this job? They either do it because they love the job. They either do it because they maybe love the culture that we bring in the business, if you run it well. Or they do it because they want to do it for leadership. And therefore, what does a leader need to do? Better. For them to do better. Then when they do better for you, do you do something better for them? And if you can't, do you get back to them? It becomes a cycle of virtues or lack of virtues. And you realize that magic happens when these things start to go right. And therefore, I've talked episodically about different places.
Okay.
And many were game-changing, but what life-changing was my experience in Mumbai during 26/11. My team were not soldiers, they were not the army, they were not the NSG, right? But what made them risk their lives? And if you read the couple of episodes, there's much more to say.
You were there? You were present there?
Yeah, I was there about 4 hours after the attack because I flew off from and then I was inside and outside the hotel right through with the NSG and the teams and working with them. But what all they did, they didn't have to do. They did it because for them, it sounds, very prosaic. Atithi Devo Bhava. We use it very, very loosely, right? As if it's supposed to be the right thing to do. But it's not an easy thing to do.
True.
But they did it. And they did it for some reasons, which I try to explain. And it was, these are moments of time when you respect people for what they bring to the table. As much as the city helped. I used to come in and out of the hotel for those 3 nights to address my team. Then we had exits to be planned and some people were being rescued. But there was a whole citizenry around our hotel.
And this you are talking about Oberoi, right?
Yeah, right behind the hotel. And so we had a constant supply of water coming. We had idli, puri, vada powers, and people working around. And somebody would say, I think some of your people are tired. I have one extra bed in my house. Can you want to have them go and sleep there? Because I know it'll be a long while while we do this. Why? Why do people do what they do under these circumstances? And amongst many things were leadership learnings that I've tried to capture as a chronicle of change, as a chronicle of my enhancing my own empathetic skills or leadership skills, and then try to capture them into a simplified form to say, I never thought I'd be able to do it. I never thought I would be able to make a success like I think I did. And so I then try to synopsize the whole part to say, if I can, you can. And actually, my learnings were like these 20 points, which are there in the epilogue.
Okay.
Is how I've tried to capture my kind of call it autobiography, chronicle, memoirs, or whatever.
Cool.
But it links up. And then the other part that was great after Oberoi was during Lemon Tree. So, 5-star hotels are considered wasteful, non-profitable, whatever the people say. Today things have changed. But this was a different segment altogether. So I've done multiple segments, multiple brands during my 40 years. But this is what is called the mid-scale, mid-upscale segment. Fairly unknown in India till recently. It's probably the only example of a well-run segmentation properly. Where I learned
Nobody else?
In
Radisson?
Saying we do it is one thing.
Achha.
But working,
makes sense.
there's a business model which says this is the model to do it, and it's a created model by the team led by a gentleman we share the same surname but we're not related.
Okay.
His name is Rattan Keswani. He's the chairman MD, still the chairman MD of the company.
Okay.
I joined them as deputy MD and I joint venture with them for the management part of what we extended to. But he came up in the early 2002, 2003 with a assessed business model of what are called mid-scale, mid-upscale hotels, right? And how do you design them? How do you do it right? How do you get the right people? How do you, do the cost and expense management, therefore to the revenue, what you can give the customer, what you can't give the customer, you're quite cool to say, look, I can't do it because it doesn't make profitable sense.
True.
But to run them sustainably profitably. But I'll bring the sustainability part of it. Most people pay lip service to sustainability. That company does, stuff that people should learn from. Management studies should be written about that company. They do so many things which are just not sustainable from an energy, yes, that kind of point of view.
Who?
Lemon Tree,
Okay.
But they do stuff that is sustainable from what they do for the community. So imagine, as a part of the brand, there are artifacts that are bought from a village in Bastar. One statuette this high can feed a family of 5 for 3 months. So we used to have those all over both our owned and managed hotels. But this was a way of giving back. We all buy art. Every hotel buys art. But does it mean something? Is it relevant? Plus, it's local.
True.
Right? And it supports. Imagine one statuette can keep a family going.
True.
For 3 to 4 months, a family of 5 people. Imagine the amount of art that would go in. To effectively use humor around what you couldn't do. Multiple companies have dogs and dog flavors, but they were adopted strays that became mascots of the hotel. It's a dog story of the company that most people don't know too much about. But the most remarkable part, which actually extended itself into much higher percentages, is what they did with the differently abled people. It's a remarkable journey. They've been fated, and then that's about it. But I think people should learn from them, and that should be life stories that should be taken into account. So at a point in time, Lemon Tree had 15% of its budgeted payroll. These are not extra people. They're not doing it for charity. They're creating roles to create self-esteem, therefore to create a different avenue of employment. 15% of the people are differently able. 5% of the people are what are called economically differently able because they come from families that are below poverty line. Right?
That is actually creating a big change.
It's a massive change, right? It's a social magnifier. People come and study it, people learn from it, but it's something people can do everywhere. You're not being charitable, you're actually creating. So if you create the self-esteem, give a reason for these people to live, they'll live longer. Otherwise, they large number, and it's a proven fact, the large percentage of them pass away because they go into clinical depression because of the different. So one was the economic business model of a different way of running hotels and designing hotels. And plus I had learned lots of things from Mr. Oberoy. I've dedicated the book to him largely because that's where I began. But the second part is dedicated to Rattan Keswani and Lemon Tree, because that is a different way to run hotels, a different way to give back to a community, also be profitable.
True.
And to encompass all this, I think not much. Therefore, we don't sing the pains as in P-A-E-N-S, but of the teams that make it happen. Brands get a lot of praise. When somebody does something wrong, it gets flashed out, but it dies.
True.
Maybe the CEOs get a lot of praise. But I don't think we celebrate this whole population of wonderful people who do largely the same thing for 40 years of life. They do it beautifully despite their diversities. They change, their persona changes, but they work together without any inequities being expressed at work. And their only joy is to bring joy to a customer. So the question you have to ask yourself is, why? What makes them tick?
Yeah.
And if I can then make them tick better and look after them, I realized that they would make me tick and learn much better and do better. So it became a bit of a relationship of mutual gain and mutual convenience. So yeah, that's a long story of the whole book, but that's the way it came together.
Okay, now I have few questions in mind since we were talking, but I need a very quick answers from you on that. What do you think? There are many young chaps in the market who actually want to move into the hotel business. They go to IHMs, they study there. There are multiple hotel management schools. What is one thing, only one word thing, which is fundamentally like the primary thing, which everybody in this industry should have, which will actually make them thrive?
So I think it's a well-quoted fact. You should hire for attitude and aptitude. Never hire for personality and knowledge, because knowledge changes tomorrow.
Sure.
Today our customers know more than we know because they are better traveled maybe, or they come from an economic background that is much more, more proficient, higher. They could teach a young person more about wine than a person has learned from books yet. But what will make them succeed is good attitude, aptitude to learn, and aptitude to not change dramatically, but aptitude to be not resistant to new things, but to understand what value it brings. Because what I say to people is the only industry that can make you switch segments of knowledge. Nobody else can, either in production or you sales and marketing, right? Here, I've had examples of chefs becoming general managers, housekeepers becoming general managers, financial controllers.
A lot of job rotation here and there.
It can happen if you desire to learn and switch, because you have to do somewhat in your own time.
But this is like a norm in the entire industry, or with big brands like Oberoi?
Actually, if done well, it is industry all across. And because your personality, your way of speaking, dressing, comfort zone, confidence, and how much you expand when you engage with people is so good, I would say to everybody, make it like they draft in the army, right? Make everybody work in hospitality for 5 years. I kid you not. After 5 years, also the hospitality person is the most employable person for any industry. And people poach.
तैयार होके आएगा, discipline time पे आएगा.
They should always say, if you come from, in my case, Lemon Hotel, Oberoi Lemon Tree Hotels, you were getting a guaranteed product. If you survived well for 5 years, means you had all these qualities. Otherwise, you wouldn't have survived, right?
True.
And as you improved, you realize what you changed and improved on.
And is that the reason there is a lot of attrition in the particular industry? Because it is tough to survive in the industry.
Look, so there are two ways of looking at it. I think every industry has long hours, right? Doesn't yours have long hours? I'm sure it does. But hospitality somehow gets blamed for being the only one that seems to have long hours historically. So that's a bit strange, right? Initially, maybe in a competitive set or a peer group set, it doesn't pay that much. But I would say it's a repository of knowledge should you want to reach it. Otherwise you will train yourself in a course. Here, live on the ground, you're being paid your salary, but you're learning so much every single day, every quarter, that you're not paying for. People don't appreciate the element of learning or their own personality enhancement that happens, which helps you in the future. Because the moment they move, if they do, they move for 3x. And there are many, many success stories that will surprise you, who are senior colleagues or colleagues of mine. They become MDs of companies that have nothing to do with hospitality. Because the business gave them the natural aptitude and attitude and the learning, which is the rooted learning, not the bookish other stuff. That is useful everywhere.
And this is a difficult business, right?
It is difficult if you don't enjoy it.
Agreed. But if we take a Hawkeye view, and since you have always been in the hospitality, so I don't know whether you'll be able to comment it from a FMCG or media or any other perspective. But in any which way, hospitality is a serious business. It's a difficult business to run these huge blocks of hotels.
So everybody doesn't run big hotels. You start up at a particular level, then you run small
then you
hotels,
scale.
and now there is so much opportunity that was not there before in our time. But I think maybe in a sustained manner, it is a bit more physically difficult than maybe others in a lot of jobs, right? But the other way around it is, I think the opportunity it provides you for personal growth within the industry and outside the industry is just phenomenal, which people don't tend to see. I wish they would. Is it natural? But I'm sure it's in your business too. And we were talking about absolutely walking in. I want to leave the business because of the fatigue or the test stress or the right boss or the wrong boss or whatever you call it every few years. And this is when I was getting lots of opportunities of change and growth. So that's normal. But I think it happens with you guys as well.
Sure.
That you want to, let's do something different. There's my peer group has got it, my friends have got it. That's not different, right?
Yeah.
But you've got to somewhere, step back and say, what do I enjoy doing every day? And is it either helping me grow my mind or my personality?
Sure.
If the answer is, hey, it's doing both for you, you stick with it.
Sure.
Otherwise, you find one which can do both. So that's how it
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So, since you carry like a 4 decades of experience in particularly hospitality, this is actually a cheat sheet for myself, and for a lot of viewers also who must be watching this episode. A lot of people fancy this idea of starting like a small kind of a Airbnb boutique hotel in maybe like a place in Goa, Varkala, or maybe in the hills.
Definitely.
What is the advice?
During COVID, this was
during COVID, especially for the vacation people, it developed a new business model called vacation. A lot of people work out of the vacation. What is your suggestion to them? Should they start small? A lot of people may not have money. Should they lease out? Should they buy? Like, क्या करना चाहिए?
Each one of these models has opportunity. But I'd say one thing. When you begin, don't look at the success, revenue, profit story. Get into it if you enjoy working with people. That's the first thing. If you don't have that,
don't do it.
Don't do it. Because at some point of time, the other part will take over. Now, what you want to do, you want to do a homestay, you want to then give it to Airbnb, you want to do something larger, you have, the possibility of building on a plot of land that belongs to you. That's a question of what do you have as the asset. So a lot of people make success stories here because pushte land hai. Right? So then the monetizing value of that land, which if I had to buy today, is not there. They don't have to go the cost to that.
And ROI, so wo to game hi
But
change.
you have to check your return to say, if I were, am I getting return if I had to buy the same plot of land today? And maybe the model may.
Or if I'm just like lending out that rent and getting a
Correct.
rent.
So you got to work your two parts together. The smallest, well-run homestay can do very well, and I have friends who do it. Some of them don't, because even a 5-room place will take the same amount of effort, energy,
as a 50
and an emotional drain to a 50 because then you have more people or 100, right? But do you want to go through that? And you want to go through that is the reason to get into it. Not for, I think it can make a few crores of rupees. It will, but it will also die because if you don't take care of this between your people and your own self, you won't service the customer sustainably, and in which case the customer won't come back and then you recycle.
I was traveling to Uttarakhand and I stayed at a place in Airbnb. The gentleman, the husband and wife, they were running this beautiful property. They said the same thing. We don't want to dilute our quality. We just want to keep it to 4 rooms. That's it. But these 4 rooms, each and every, even that small little leaf you are seeing there, that has been thought out. So now it completely makes sense coming from you because...
So, if this business actually started, actually more effective internationally. We are not into innkeeping. Though hote the, lekin the concept was not the same. Dharamsala hoti thi.
हाँ, true.
But if you go...
बाद में hotels आए.
This concept of having your own homestay and hospitality in that is a concept from Europe over 100 years ago. And then people would learn, and that's why apprenticeship programs came in. And you would realize if you study the history of hospitality, that people would apprentice. So in Germany, for instance, either you apprentice to be an engineer, therefore the high skill that they've got, or you apprenticed under a chef. Right? That's the 2 apprenticeships that are most popular, right? So one became the high zone, engineering in Germany is known to be high. And therefore this whole thing began. And you were proud to be branded as an apprentice of that chef because that's how your career would move, and then you would move and you would grow and you learn. But most of these places, the lovely accreditation that comes is called Beau Rivage Hotel, studied at some point in time, or some others. Just small hotels which are government under an umbrella. They are husband and wife shows. So the husband may be a chef, The wife may have worked in room reservation or housekeeping. They maybe have one, maybe two other people working with them. Sometimes they're in seasonal, so snow-clad resorts to, whatever.
Yeah.
But they do everything themselves. But everything has that personal touch, right down to the last herb that your mother used to put before she finished the dish.
True.
Everything has that last touch from the two of them. But it's a business that they enjoy. They are there to make money, obviously, everything to make money. But they enjoy that, and they enjoy so they will tell stories to customers. Customers tell their stories.
Yes.
People sit across the fireplace, and place.
Yeah, I remember doing the same thing, picking a guitar, singing songs for the entire night with
one
them.
One of your pictures has something in
Yeah.
the garden, right? But that's what hospitality began as, and that's the genesis of it.
What do you call it? You mentioned a name.
No, so there are multiple such chains
Okay.
that came up internationally, but largely in Europe. There were small clusters that came up.
But what kind of hotels do you call them? Bono?
No, they're associations.
Okay.
These are umbrella associations.
Okay.
But just consider them to be boutique
hotels.
homestays, 3, 4, 5, 6 rooms.
Okay.
Right, one kitchen, one
That's
restaurant,
it.
fine dining, special wine, special cocktails, whatever. But they come because now associations come in and umbrellas come in for marketing. There are multiple pieces that come in like the one I mentioned. So it's small LHW hotels, small luxury hotels of the world.
Got the point.
It's one association. These are the way it goes. But the business itself. So you could be in a ski resort in Switzerland or Germany, where these people run it during ski season. But when ski season finishes, they wind up, they go on holiday. Their staff actually works ski season for them. And then because non-ski season, they suddenly go across and work in the Caribbean. And this sets of people just keep moving. You'll see this in Switzerland and Germany all the time.
The hospitality nomads.
Yeah, but they enjoy that.
Yeah.
So that's how it works.
But because I was reading this, a lot of people during the time of Oktoberfest, they'll just like all young chaps, they'll just fly down to the place, they'll work for 15 days and then they'll again vanish to a different festival.
So it's a way of the world because again economics and social security etc. works a little better for them. In our country, unfortunately, that doesn't work. But they are willing to be nomads at work because they enjoy it.
Yeah,
but sense. The essence, I come back to it. Don't get into it unless you feel you enjoy it. The day you feel the physicality is more than the enjoyment,
then stop it.
Then you'll find a job anywhere else because you're ready for it. But if you enjoy the joy of dealing with people, you'll enjoy the business. That's what it is.
So cool. I am thinking like this is a presumption. Have you stayed in any other hotels apart from Oberoi and Lemon Tree?
Of course. So
you have?
Yeah. So initially, there's always a curiosity who does better. Right. Okay. So initially, when you're traveling, you travel within your own hotel because you can't really afford the other one, right? Because you're not being paid enough.
Yeah.
Right? But you've got some luxuries at work. As you earn more, then obviously you want to touch and feel different.
Yeah. True.
It's also your company tells you what's better, which are the better chains if they do. In which case you want to feel it. So you tend to do that. So yeah, that's happened.
Okay. And which is the best hotel in the world?
So I'll come to it, but. After a point in time, I stopped wanting to stay in hotels because I was living in hotels, I was working in a hotel. Right? So for me, the great little boutiques, the Airbnbs were a lot better for me if I wanted to go for a holiday.
Where you can actually go and like make some tea for yourself and then
but there's a lot of flexibility. Also in Oberoi hotels, we lived in the hotel. As the head of the hotel, we lived in the hotel. Yeah. So which means you had to shave every Sunday. You couldn't, be wandering around your umbrella shops, right? So it became so tight on that because, the staff is coming in to also look after you. So for me, a luxury dining restaurant holds no
value.
Okay, of course it's there.
Agreed.
But I'd rather go and eat in a dhaba.
I
get because I've done that part.
This is different.
If it's something new and smaller, I'd rather touch and feel and so local food. I love that stuff.
Okay. So which is the best hotel? Again the point.
It's very difficult to say which is the best hotel. Truly.
No, for you, where you have stayed, maybe like a small Airbnb. Why not?
No. So I think if I was to say even amongst the best hotels that I've stayed, the best hotels were still some of the best that I ran.
Okay.
So I'm very proud of that fact. So
why not?
But because I opened some hotels and refurbished some hotels and changed the dynamics of those hotels, each one of them has a wonderful different memory, right? So my first hotel that I opened as a general manager is a classic called the Oberoi Cecil, which was also the hotel before it got refurbished later. The first hotel that Rai Bahadur MS Oberoi owned.
Okay.
And that's the first hotel he worked in as a accounts clerk at the reception counter when he came from Pakistan. And then,
and this
there's a whole story.
This
is similar. There's a whole story about it, which I mentioned. You could read a book called The Dare to Dream that explains Bachi Ka Karya. And that hotel went through a completely makeover of a different kind, but it had to also capture the essence of the family from where it began, because the history and the sense, and I was very happy to be chosen to be the first one to open it. Delightful.
This is Shimla.
It's called the Oberoi Cecil. Then, of course, each of the hotels has been different, because also I trained in some, and then to lead those as a VP or an EVP gives you a different kind of pleasure.
True.
But it also has different kinds of pains that I've written about. But yeah, I think a true delight of memory, and I've gone there to stay because that's where your career took a switch as a GM. I've still gone there to stay as a customer because I still love the place. My heart is there.
But you don't go as a customer. Certainly they know you.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, now I'm not with the company, so you have to still.
You don't have to pay for the room, right? That's for sure.
No, of course
you have to.
Of course.
Okay.
But I take people there and say, let me take you a hotel where if you enter the lobby, you look up, if you don't say, I will change my mind. So I mean, that's how good I feel about it, and everybody's.
And which is this place? I really want to.
So
next time I'm Shimla and
please do. Please, I would recommend it highly. And in the same way,
मतलब बडुआ पूरा खाली हो जाएगा, that's for sure, but ठीक है.
नहीं, but even if you just went for half a day, it's worth its while.
It's killing, yeah, sure.
But it's truly dramatic, and similar manner, I think there is a couple of hotels in Switzerland that I stayed in, which were quite delightful, but they were more the smaller pieces that I remember, and because I was there for 3 days. I was doing a training course in Lausanne, and then the husband and wife couple, you understood the essence of hospitality when you were staying there, which you were doing as a professional. But there you felt the somebody who's holding
the personal touch,
the pulse of hospitality and how they kind of treated it. These are game-changing, life-changing moments that you go through, but I remember every nook and cranny of that small hotel.
Wow.
Perfectly. So, yeah.
Let me ask you a very different question. Which is the worst hotel you have stayed in? Or rather, for the lack of a better word, what's the shittiest hotel you have stayed in?
No, so I've stayed in many competitive
Certainly
hotels.
naming some competitions in mind.
No, but I think, once you go through, like I said, people don't understand the pulse of hospitality, right? And what happens within. Okay, but what leads to it is hoteliers, therefore, are a lot less critical.
Because they understand the pain.
They're a lot more forgiving. So I can walk into any restaurant and say, it's not working today. It's like an orchestra. Some things are like an orchestra. Right? If the
You understand.
One instrument is not kind of really pinging well, everybody can make out it's there, but it's not there. Right?
Maza nahi aa raha.
I can go to any restaurant and say, 5 minutes I'll tell you it doesn't work, or the supervision's not happening because you don't see the essence of it, or there is this discipline is in. But you always first thing you say must be short staffed today. Maybe maybe the chef didn't come. I find excuses for people's problems, even though I am paying full price for it.
Because वो मेरे वाले हैं. Something
because it's my ilk. Right? I mean, I can't complain.
You will always have a bias towards them.
Yeah, so it's very difficult for me to pinpoint a negative. I always try and make excuses for them, which I shouldn't. And whenever I go with people, I say, guest comment form, if you have to fill up, you do that. I will never fill up a bad guest comment. But I do.
But I guess you were not the same when you were working there, right? You would have been like very critical about everything.
Oh yeah, people do. I mean, people. If you see my Facebook, people have been, because the things that they've been talking about my past, because some of the people that work with me.
Okay.
If you read it there, you'll see all the fun stuff that's coming out. I was not a very fun guy to work with, I think, in some places. But yeah, but if I know the restaurant manager, because a lot of them have worked with me somewhere or the other, in so many years. So if I know the GM, if I know, I make it a point, then I call them up to say, look, I went there yesterday. It wasn't so good. I'm sure you have some good reasons for it. But if I could see it, I'm sure 100 people saw it, even worse. But I always make sure I communicate that part, not as in shit, you owe me a meal or something of that sort. But it burdens me that somebody would not, the strings are not working today, and say, go fix it, because that's not our business. I've applied for the business, that's our business.
On that note, बहुत shukriya. Thank you
very
for
much. Thank
having
you.
this candid conversation with me.
A pleasure is mine. Thank you for inviting me.
And I really hope I see some
I
amazing
hope you
books in the
enjoy it.
future.
I hope you enjoy it.
I enjoyed the conversation, and especially these intimate details about the hospitality industry.
So you will see it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.